Hi, everybody, and good afternoon. Welcome to our week number 11 Twitch live stream from my research methods class. Hard to believe that spring break is behind us and that we're in April and we're in week number 11 already. It feels like it's gonna probably go pretty quick from here. Always seems to be that way after spring break. But I hope everyone is doing well. Thank you so much for those of you getting logged in. Can you hear and see me okay? Everything looks fine on my end, but just to make sure everything is coming through on yours, or someone could give me like a yes or thumbs up in the chat, that would be amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much. Perfect. Thank you both. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I hope you all had a wonderful and relaxing spring break. It was really nice to have a week off to just kind of catch up. We went down to San Diego, so it was kind of fun to go to, like, we went to Legoland and SeaWorld and the Wild Animal Park. And so I'm not sure it was relaxing, but it was definitely fun. So I hope everyone is feeling rested and ready to kind of face the last half, or more like a third of our semester at this point. So I want to go over to Canvas. We'll talk a little bit about what we have going on this week. So if we click back to Canvas here and we scroll down, we are right here in week number 11. So last week was spring break, but we did previously, before that, have week number 10. I can give you a little bit of feedback really quickly on week number 10. I don't want to ignore that as we normally do. But what I saw for week number 10, largely really good. We had the discussion number 10 and the homework assignment. I think the one thing that I'm seeing a little bit of in both of those assignments and just kind of in general, people are struggling a little bit with remembering the levels of the independent variable. So that's one thing that I saw not only on discussion number 10, but also on the homework assignment, was that a lot of you are doing a beautiful job of identifying the independent variable and the dependent variable, but you're not taking it that one step farther. So remember, when we talk about an independent variable, it's the thing that we're manipulating. And the dependent variable is the thing that we're measuring. It's dependent on what happens with the independent variable, right? And another sentence that sometimes people use is, what is the effect of the IV on the DV, right? If that helps you kind of plug things in. So most of you are doing a good job of identifying the two, but the next step is to identify the levels of the independent variable and how the dependent variable is being measured or operationalized. And that's something that a couple of people missed here and on the homework. So the levels of the independent variable are just the conditions. So what are the different groups or conditions that people can find themselves in that experiment? And then the dependent variable, like, how are we measuring that, right? So if we're curious on how many words somebody can measure or remember, how are we going to operationalize or remember that? And again, I saw that here and also on the homework assignment. So I've made a note to myself just to kind of remind you to not forget to break down the independent variable into its levels or conditions. And don't forget to talk about, how are we measuring what you've defined as the dependent variable. Otherwise, a lot of you did a beautiful job kind of putting all the pieces together with discussion 10 and the homework assignment. Really nicely done. Most of you got full points, and those of you who missed points typically either didn't quite give me enough or ran into the issue that I just mentioned. So last week was spring break, but this week we find ourselves in week number 11, kind of a standard week for us, if you will, in the sense that we have a chapter, a lecture and a lecture video, the discussion, and then the extra credit stuff. And that's really it. This week kind of simple. Next week we do have exam number 3. And so that's coming up, but not quite yet. So let's talk about what we have going on for this week. This week we're looking at chapter 12. And if we click on the lecture, chapter 12, we're adding another layer. And I know it, I can imagine in my mind that most of you are like, oh, I just got that layer down. Like, no, don't add another one. But we are adding experiments having more than one independent variable. So even more important now as we add an additional variable to really be thinking about those levels and conditions. So what you're going to look at here is, what are interactions? How do those come about when we have more than one variable? What designs are we using? We're talking about factorial designs. How do you interpret the results? Looking at graphs. Graphs are one really wonderful way to look at factorial design results. And you can see the difference between if two lines kind of follow each other versus intersect. And that's a theme that we'll talk about a little bit this week, that we can get main effects and interaction effects. So something to definitely pay attention to as we get into the materials. So make sure you read through page 1 or listen to it if you'd rather. And this is the summary. On the Beyond the Book page, I have a little bit like looking closer at factorial designs, some of the advantages and also challenges of using a design with more than one independent variable. And then some examples. I also have a little video here, video introduction to factorial designs that hopefully might be a little bit helpful. So definitely anytime I give you a link or a video, I would definitely recommend watching it or clicking on it just to help you. All of that's there to help you understand. And then finally, on the third page, you have the key terms and review. So these are the terms that you need to know for the exam next week. So if you were interested in starting to prepare and work ahead, you could start studying these now for this week. And then, each week that we've gone over has had its terms. That way you don't necessarily have to wait till the exam week to start preparing for those tests. So make sure you read through that, watch any videos that are included. I think it's just the one that we looked at. Don't forget to also watch the lecture video where I'm lecturing to some PowerPoint slides, going over interaction effects and going over factorial designs a little bit more. Especially with this topic, I feel like it can start to get a little confusing. So hopefully the lecture and the video will be a little helpful. And then, of course, make sure you read the chapter in the textbook, right? That's the 3 things. So 3 things for every chapter: chapter in the book, chapter lecture, and the lecture video. Once you've done all of that, you can do discussion number 11 for week number 11. And as usual, you have all of my instructions right here, same every week, but 13 points for my responses to my questions and 2 points for response to a peer. Don't forget to be really detailed in your responses and think about them like mini papers. I would also really recommend watching the video as I go into a little bit more depth and detail about the discussion there, just in case you need a little bit more help. So this one, I have a little scenario for you here. There's this little experiment and then the results. And the results are coming here in the form of like a little table showing you the data. So we're looking at driving using a phone or not using a phone, and then in a familiar context or a new context. So we're looking at a couple of different things. We have more than one independent variable here, which again can sometimes make it feel a little tricky. So make sure you read through this carefully. And again, feel free to watch the video if you need a little help. But once you've read through this and looked at the chart or the table here, you're going to answer these 6 questions. So number 1, what kind of design is this? And I want you to put your answer in the form of blank by blank. Is it a 2x2, a 2x4, 2x3, 3x3? What kind of levels is it here? You're going to be defining it that way. What are the independent variables and their levels in this study? So remember, like if you have an independent variable, don't forget to break down the conditions or levels of it. And you have a couple of those here. What is the dependent variable in this study and how is it being measured? So not only what is it, but how are we measuring it? Then this one, and I hope you find this fun, you're welcome to do this by hand or use a computer program, totally up to you. But you're going to create a line graph showing the results in this little chart or table above. And then you're going to upload that image into your discussion post. So this can be, again, drawn out by hand on a piece of paper. You can use graph paper if that helps you, or you can use a program on your computer or phone or whatever you would like. But you're going to be making a chart with this, and that chart is really going to help you for deciding what kind of effects you see. Number 5, you're going to estimate and describe any main effects or interaction effects in the study. And you would need to use statistics to do this. So you're going to just use it looking at this and your line graph. So you're kind of estimating and describing what you're seeing based on this little table here and based on the line graph that you created. And after you've read the chapter, that should make a little more sense of, you can tell just by the way the lines interact with each other or don't, whether there are certain types of effects. And then finally, what might you conclude from the results of this study? Does experience affect cell phone use while driving? Right? So if you had to kind of write out what are the conclusions that you could make you could describe that in a couple of sentences. So when you're ready, you can hit reply and you can see a couple of people have done that and made beautiful graphs. So I love it, right? And so clearly, you can use a program or you can do it by hand, but you'll reply. Don't forget to also reply to a classmate to get those kind of 2 easy points of credit for doing that. A few people still forgetting to do that. So don't forget, it's definitely kind of an easy 2 points to get. Of course, when we're done here today, I will post a recording of this right here for you. So if you're watching this later, you found it, or if you weren't able to make it, that's where you can find it. And then I'll give you the extra credit here in a moment. I did write out a couple of quick reminders, and I remind you of this every week, but don't forget to take a moment to check your subscription status. I have like 280 students and only 16 of you are subscribed. So if you have a chance to do it, I really appreciate it. It saves me a lot of time, and I know it saves you some time too with the ads. It also makes it where you can watch this later as a recording and still get that extra credit. And then the next reminder is that as we look ahead, hard to believe that we're in April, our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, April 9th at 1 o'clock p.m. Okay, so that will be our next live stream next Wednesday at 1, same time. We do have exam number 3 next week, so it might give us a little more time for the live stream. Trying to keep them short and sweet, but we will have a little more time next week to go over exam number 3. I'll talk about the study guide and some general tips. And of course, if you have any questions, that'd be a wonderful time to bring that with you. Otherwise, let me give you the extra credit question for today. And I did go ahead and type that out, so let me copy and paste it in. And this is the week number 11 Twitch extra credit question. So what is the difference between a main effect and an interaction effect? What is the difference between a main effect and an interaction effect? And this is something that will obviously be really helpful in your discussion and work for this week and just kind of understanding factorial designs. But if you'd like to answer this, you're joining me live now. You can put your name in the chat, or if you're watching this later as a recording and you're subscribed, you can click right here, optional Twitch extra credit number 11. And then up at the top, click on Start Assignment, and it'll bring up that box where you can type your response. And as soon as you're feeling good about it, you can hit Submit and get your confetti burst and flowers. I was like, I can't tell what that is. Confetti and flowers, like very celebratory. So don't forget, you have all the way till Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. to do this and to do everything from week number 11. I think that is everything that I wanted to go over with you, just kind of short and sweet, but I will hang out for a little while if any of you do have any questions for me. Again, kind of a typical week, but next week we do look at APA Part 2, and we have that third exam. I can't believe we're chugging along into April here. So what I will do is I'll hang out for a few minutes, and if you have any questions, now is a wonderful time to ask me. Otherwise, I hope you all have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for those of you joining me or watching this later as a recording. I am going to minimize my video so I'm not staring at myself, but if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And I'm going to, excuse me, put it in the chat as well. Thank you so much. So much for joining me. Thank you as well. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Stay warm. It's kind of chilly today. But it's supposed to start warming up as we get closer to summer. We're getting there. We're almost there. Like what, 6 more weeks or so, and then we'll be there. 7 weeks. Anyway, have a wonderful day. And again, I will hang out for a little bit if you think of any questions. And as I mentioned, I am still here if you have any questions at all for me. Otherwise, of course, you're welcome to go and have a wonderful week.